In today's video I am going to be working on a DIY. I'm going to be working on a wreath actually, but this little birdhouse is going to be on the wreath. This birdhouse I picked up from Dollar Tree, and so the first part of this video is basically going to be getting this birdhouse ready to go on the wreath. So it's kind of like two crafts in one, two DIYs in one. So the first thing I'm going to do, obviously you saw I took the sticker off. And then I am going to paint it, and I'm going to paint the main body of the birdhouse green, but the spring green I had I thought was a bit too bright, so I went ahead and mixed it with some of this white paint that I had to kind of make my own custom paint. After the green paint was dry, I painted the roof brown with this truffle chalk paint, I think by Waverly, and I added a little bit of water to the paint so that I could give the paint job kind of more like a staining or a whitewash type of finish. I didn't want it to be super brown, so that's what I did. I went ahead and added some water to the paint, and then as I was painting, I took a paper towel and wiped off the excess. And then when the brown paint was dry, I decided I still thought that green paint was too bright. So I decided I was going to try to antique it or make it look a little bit more weathered. So I decided to use some more of that white paint as well as the brown paint. And I'm going to dry brush the paint on and then take the excess off out with a baby wipe. Once again, when the paint was dry, I'm going to use a hot glue and some of this floral moss, and I'm going to add it around the bottom of the base of the birdhouse, and I'm going to embellish it with the ivy. And then the last little embellishment I'm going to use on this little birdhouse are these adorable little birds that I got from Amazon. I got them 10 in a set, and they're just so adorable. They got the cutest little face, and they're tiny. I don't know if I already mentioned in this video, but I will have all of the things that I got from Amazon linked in the description box below. Off camera, I added a second little bird. I put it in the hole of the birdhouse, and then I just put some more of that green moss in the hole to look kind of like nesting material coming out of the birdhouse. I think it turned out really cute, and it's ready to go onto my wreath. So for the wreath part of this DIY, I am using this square wreath form that I got from the Dollar Tree. It's the first time I've ever made a square wreath, and I wanted it to be a little bit fuller or fluffier. I don't know what word to use. So I took some of this quilt batting, it's just thin quilt batting, and I cut it into strips, and I'm going to wrap it around the wreath as just like a base. You won't be able to see any of this batting when I'm all done with the wreath. Once the wreath was covered in the batting, I took some of this burlap ribbon. I also got this off of Amazon. You can get burlap ribbon like this from Dollar Tree, but this is a much bigger roll. I think you get more bang for your buck with this ribbon. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cover the wreath in the same way that I covered it with the batting. I did struggle a little bit with the corners. I've never done a square wreath before, and the corners were a little bit tricky for me. I can't really tell you how I did it because I think I did all four corners just a little bit different each time. And you can see me here struggling a bit with the corner, especially the first one. It took me a little bit of time to figure out what I was doing and how to get it to work right, but I did eventually get all four corners covered and they looked nice. Now that the hard, tedious part of doing this wreath is over, it is now time to decorate it. And I am going to be using a combination of flowers that I just picked up from Dollar Tree. You might remember those from my last haul, the pansies, and some of the other greenery and foliage and things that I had in my stash. So just about any time I do any kind of a flower arrangement, the first thing I do is cut each individual flower or greenery off of the main stem. I find it so much easier to work with the flowers if they are individual and not in the bunches. And then I love to use zip ties to tie them together. It's the easiest way I've found to do any kind of floral arranging, especially for a wreath. And what I kind of do is I make two bunches that are pretty much identical, and then I make kind of a swag out of them to put on the wreath. Now for this wreath, because it's a square wreath, I had to do it just a little bit differently, but the concept is the same. Now after I got the florals attached to the wreath, I forgot I had this I wanted to use, like these little vining leaves. I also picked those up from Amazon, and I was able to make it work. I just kind of hid the ends behind the flowers and then just wrapped it around the rest of the wreath and then tucked it in around on the bottom side. Hopefully that makes sense. Now it's time to add the birdhouse to the wreath, and I was kind of just trying to decide I wanted it like more to the left or to the right, and I decided to go ahead and put it more to the left, closer to the flowers. I just thought it made it look like the little nest was like amongst a flower bush, and I just used hot glue, copious amounts of hot glue, to stick it to the wreath. And to make sure that the birdhouse isn't going to go anywhere and to kind of keep it pulled forward, I just used a little hot glue and I glued some of the flowers from the bottom part of the swag onto the bottom of the birdhouse, and that really just made it more stable. Now it's time to add a bow, and I decided to just do something really simple because this wreath is kind of busy. So I just took some more of that burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to make a simple like shoestring bow, or like what you would use to tie your shoes, just a simple bow, and I'm going to just hot glue it in place. And then to tie in the ivy that was on the birdhouse, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off some of these little sprigs of ivy and then just tuck them in here and there amongst the flowers, and I'll just use a little hot glue to hold them in place. And then as a final little touch, I'm going to take another one of those little birds and I'm going to adhere it to the top right corner of the wreath. It just to add some interest to that side of the wreath and to balance it out a little bit. And when you see the final project, you will see that I went ahead and added a couple more birds along the right hand side of the wreath. And here it is, all done, hanging in place. I think it turned out so super cute. You can see on the right hand side there I have 3 little birds, and I have it in position so that they look like they're perched on that vine, so that they have something that they're standing on. And I think they just add a lot of interest to that side of the wreath. Olivia said that it needed something over there, so I added those little birds over there. And then I just love these pansies. They are so pretty, very much spring. This could go into summer as well, so this may well be a spring and summer wreath for me. And I just love all the little details. Now once I hung it, I did fluff the flowers a little bit, bent the flowers around so that they are the way I want them to be. And then how I hung it, I used some more of that vine ribbon stuff, and I just looped it around and tied a knot. And I had to put it clear over to the left side of the wreath. I couldn't hang it right in the middle because of the weight issue. If I put it right in the middle, the wreath hung all crooked. So I don't understand the engineering of that, but that's what I had to do. And that ribbon is just kind of free floating. It's not attached to the wreath at all, so that you can move it and maneuver it however you want to get the wreath to hang straight. Alright friends, that'll be it for this video. I sure hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making this wreath. I always love it when I get inspired to do a DIY. It gets me excited and gets my juices flowing. I love being creative. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below, and we will talk to you all later, friends. Bye-bye.